Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Ask a Property Manager. I'm Eric Worrell with RentPrep.com, and we're here with Andrew Schultz, our resident expert property manager, associate broker. I'll be honest, I don't even know what associate broker really means compared to property manager. Can you explain it?
So property manager is not actually, in New York State anyway. Oh man, this is a whole discussion.
Oh,
Okay.
boy. Oh, boy.
You opened this. This is your fault. Remember that.
All right.
So in New York State, the real property law is Article 12A. Article 12A specifies that in New York State, if you're managing property on behalf of another person and you're receiving compensation for it, you either need to be a direct employee of the property owner, like a W-9 employee, or you need to have you need to be a licensed broker or a licensed real estate agent working under a broker, and that's where that fiduciary responsibility comes into play. There's a lot of different aspects to it, but essentially what it boils down to
It's
is
so ridiculous.
it is. Well, and
Okay.
it boils down to a licensed real estate salesperson or a licensed associate broker or a licensed broker should be handling your property management for you in New York State,
All right.
unless you're directly employing the person.
So that might
That's
be some
the
other
long
states
way
might have
around.
that, but typically New
Well, I
York
think
likes
most states
to,
do it.
live in a lot of very shallow words. I feel like they want to put their stamp on a lot of things. So,
Yeah,
well, that aside, we're
that was a
back.
long way to go to get back to where
We are
where we
back
are now.
on another episode of Ask a Property Manager with associate broker Andrew Schultz of Realty Edge. So, Andrew, I'm going to lay this one on you here. This comes from Mark, and he had a question. This stems back to October 12th. He said he's consider raising his late fees. It's $25. How much do others charge, and when does it kick in?
Okay. Before we talk late fees, let's talk rent collection procedures.
Mm.
So, and this is all based on your lease and it's all based on your state laws. So make sure you check both of those. I'm not an attorney, I'm a property manager. Talk to your attorney because they're going to give you the best advice for your area on this. So our rent collection procedure is rent's due on the 1st, it's late on the 5th with a $50 late fee plus $2 a day for every day thereafter. Um, and then some states also have a requirement that says you can't evict someone until they're late for X number of days.
Mm.
So that might be something that factors into your market. Um, on the 5th of the month, if I don't have your rent check, I'm calling and texting you. And if I have an email address, I'm emailing you. I'll try to hit you on as many different points of contact as I can. And I'm leaving voicemails and sending text messages and sending emails. On the 6th, if I haven't heard from you, so basically our mail at our office arrives like 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
1 o'clock in the afternoon on the 5th, I'm calling you if I don't have your rent check. 1 o'clock on the 6th, if I still don't have your rent check, we're issuing a 3-day notice, a 3-day pay or quit notice, which is the start of the eviction process here in New York.
That's a good point because
Once that
some
notice is
states it's
served,
not 3 days. I know California's got a different. I think
like
it
I
might
think
be
it's 10
five,
days in
10.
California,
Yeah,
5,
something.
something like that.
Yeah.
Every state might be, there's a little variance here and there. So if you're late, I'm putting the late fee on as of the 5th, and then it goes up by $2 a day every day that you still have a balance outstanding. And then we're serving the notice. Our lease allows us to charge that service of notice back to the tenant as an added rent. If we get to the point where they ignore our 3-day notice and we go and file the court subpoena, or not court subpoena, the court petition.
Mm-hmm.
If we get to the point where we filed a petition, those costs are getting added in,
Okay.
plus the late fees keep adding up, plus, plus, plus. It becomes very expensive, so we try to avoid it whenever possible.
Mm.
And we tell our tenants that up front. I'm like, if you wind up being late, you need to call us ahead of time to let us know and make a payment arrangement. Don't wait until after the 1st of the month because you're not going to get nearly the receptive response that you're hoping for.
Mm.
And if you're a habitually late tenant, then that's another discussion for another day.
Sure.
So anyway, we'll get to the actual question that was asked by Mark.
Well, that's a
And
good
that
point that
was
you're bringing up because it's like really your late fees are only as relevant as your process and your tenant. If you
right.
have a good process and you have a good tenant who's a good pay, it doesn't matter if your late fees are $1 or 1,000. It's not going to come into play because they're just going to pay on time. So a lot of it's just what process you have in place.
And I think a big portion of it as well is making sure that your process is tight and that your process is consistent across all of your units.
Mm.
Tenants talk. So if
Mm.
you have, say, a 4-unit building and Sally likes to be late and mentions to Mark that Well, I was late and I didn't get charged a late fee. Well, Mark was late and Mark got charged a late fee.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to apply that policy consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Our only one exception to the late fee policy that we have, everybody gets one late pay in a 12-month period without a late fee. That's like their one chance to something popped up, whatever, I forgot. Okay, you get one free late in a 12-month period,
Sure.
and then after that, no excuses. We have to charge the late fee.
Very cool. So he's saying that he's considered raising it. He's at 25. You're at 50. And do you have any advice on that?
I'm at 50 plus $2 a day. And the $2 a day starts on the 6th of the month. So on the 6th, it's 52, the 7th, it's 54, et cetera, until it's paid in full. And it'll just keep building.
My one question with that is, like, if you already have a tenant who's a bad pay, at least in this instance, right? Do you actually get them to include that late fee? Like, how do you communicate that to them of what they actually owe? Because if they're 2 day, or if it's the 7th, right, they owe you $54 according to your lease.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do they do that? Know it, or how does that money come back to you?
Most of our tenants are pretty good about it. And if they have like a few dollars straggling, like they send us a check and it's for a couple dollars short, we'll just send them a quick text or an email or give them a phone call and say, hey, just so you know, you included, your $50, but you forgot your $2 a day for 3 days. Just include that with your next month's rent check. I'm not going to blow somebody up over $6.
Yeah.
Especially if they just paid me their rent and their at least their $50 late fee.
Okay, gotcha.
Some states do have laws regarding what you can and can't charge for late fees.
Mm-hmm.
Some states cap it off at like 5 or 10% of the total amount of rent. Our state actually is not one of those states, which surprises me because New York is pretty big on legislating us to death. But to the best of my knowledge anyway, and I could be wrong, like I said, I'm not an attorney, I don't think that there's anything regarding what you can and can't charge for a late fee, at least in upstate New York in a non-rent controlled apartment. It might be different downstate, especially New York City with rent control and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool. Yeah, and I think, you already mentioned it, but the biggest thing is being consistent and actually enforcing the late fee. Because if you don't enforce it, it's not going to actually do anything for you, and then your tenants are just going to know you're a pushover, and they can kind of just keep paying late. So I learned that lesson a couple years into being a landlord, where I was just like, oh, yeah, this is kind of like parenting in some ways.
So, in a lot of ways, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again for your insights, Andrew, and look forward to talking with you soon.
Sounds good.